Good morning, comrades! Welcome back to the channel, welcome back to the Nürburgring, or at least for now, because in a bit we will be going to Brussels, to European Parliament, to talk about the 2035 Internal Combustion Engine Ban. But before we're going to do that, there is something I would like to share with you, because I sincerely hope that some of you came from outside of my channel who haven't been following me before, because of the interesting topic that we're going to be covering in today's video. And you might get the impression, just another car YouTuber who is going to cry that his engines and exhaust attached to them are being taken away from him. Well, it's not exactly true, because I have embraced e-mobility for a couple of years. My daily driver is an EV, and I sincerely believe that electrical drivetrains offer a lot more benefits than traditional internal combustion engine vehicles when it comes to the performance. Lower central point of gravity, instant response, better power usage, the power density. However, I also don't think that the world is black and white. There's also always a middle ground, in that both technologies have the right to exist next to each other. And I definitely do not believe that EVs are going to save the world. And if you think that that is the case, then you always need to be aware of the trade-off, at what cost it is going to happen. So let's go and find out.
In order to do so, we have organized a meeting with an honorable member of the European Parliament, Mr. Paolo Borchia. Mr. Borchia is an Italian member elected in 2019. He is currently the coordinator for his political group within the Committee on Industry, Research and Energy, and was closely involved in the negotiations on the new regulation on CO2 for cars. Mr. Borchia was among those that were more critical towards this reform and voted against this decision to ban the combustion engine as of 2035, after delivering a strong speech on the chamber.
So, Mr. Borchia, first of all, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot for the invitation.
Well, you invited us here, so thank you. Can you please explain us in short this internal combustion engine law, the ban of the internal combustion engine that will take into effect into 2035? Maybe in short, what does actually mean?
Yes, European Union would like to become the first player at the global level to be neutral on the climatic point of view. It means that by 2050, European Union would like to become the first continent with zero greenhouse gas emission. This goal has consequences on vehicles, on the car market, because starting from the beginning of 2035, it will be forbidden to sell traditional engines cars. And so we are debating, we are reflecting on this point.
Mm-hmm. So no cars with internal combustion engines will be allowed to be sold?
Yeah.
That sounds quite simple, but I think there's a lot more behind it. How it will affect, most importantly, the labor market?
It's not simple. We are concerned for many issues. First of all, we are concerned about the keeping of employment. There are many companies in Italy, all over Europe, that contribute to create a traditional engine. On the other hand, we are very concerned for the infrastructural side, because for the moment it is very hard to recharge a whole continent with a lot of electric cars. And then basically we are afraid that the green revolution will be a revolution for rich people and not for normal people.
Because as of now, to afford an electric vehicle, it's not something that everyone can do. No. It is already quite expensive. No. And of course, we're standing here in Brussels, the central of Europe, great. We have middle income or higher income, but there are people in some poorer regions who are still driving a 40-year-old car sometimes, an old Opel Corsa, and you cannot think about buying an EV, and as I mentioned, an infrastructure. So I think it brings quite some challenges with it.
That's the point. Last week, the big company, the Chinese giant producing electric cars, declared that they are selling much more vehicles than Tesla. And so this is another important signal, because our economy is used to have traditional and local brands, and for the first time there will be the risk that the European market will be invaded by made in China cars. And so I'm not sure if we are ready on a cultural point of view for this step.
But going back a bit about the loss of labor, because again, of course, there are a lot of people who are focusing on making only internal combustion engines. You cannot say like, okay, you're making pistons, now you're going to make electric motors. It's completely different science. Do you have a rough numbers of how much people it concerns within European Union?
Well, according to European Commission figures, we are talking about 600,000 people in all over Europe and 70,000 in Italy. So
Okay.
we are talking a serious matter on the employment side. And then employment is very important, but let's avoid to forget that there is a tradition, there is some brands that made history in Italian and European economy, and so it's a pity to try to sacrifice all this structure only for ideology. That's the point.
Yeah, exactly. Now, let's suppose maybe that vehicles will become cheaper, the EVs. As production gets cheaper, let's think that this might be ideal world scenario, that there's enough resources to produce those batteries. But as you mentioned previously, infrastructure is a very big issue. I have an
Absolutely.
EV. To get somewhere, for example, as we were on our way to the parliament, we had to actually wait for people at the charger so they could leave. And the chargers were already, one charger was not functioning. So what's available there is not always working, and let alone when there are going to be a lot more EVs. I know roughly 3 to 4 years ago, when manufacturers were starting to produce the EVs and market, there was always this range anxiety and people like not knowing when to charge. And they were saying like, yeah, we have, for example, Ionity, which is like a big player. He's going to have this amount of chargers. Next year is going to be double. But I don't see it happening at this point anymore. I don't see more points becoming available for EV drivers. Do you know anything how it is being regulated? Because
well, in this historical phase that Europe is facing the phase out from the import of gas from Russia. Let's remember to our friends that are watching us that the majority, for example, in Italy, the majority of electricity is made with gas.
Yes.
So we have a huge infrastructural problem, and we have a problem of generation
of the energy.
All the energy that we need. If we are going to an electrified world, in this moment we are not ready, and it's very hard to think to impose by law a technological change. I mean that the law, the development of European law should be follow the development of technology and not the opposite.
Yeah, for sure. So what you're saying, you're basically confirming what we read from the media right now, that there are already concerns for the coming winter, that we might not have enough energy to heat up houses and whatnot, and that's without the millions of extra electric vehicles that we're going to have.
That's a very serious concern. We are not opening the book of nightmares, but that's the reality for a current European Union.
But quite like a straightforward question. We're here in European Parliament. You present these concerns to the people who make these laws, and you say like, we're already in deep shit right now. How are you gonna make it even worse? What's their reaction?
People are scared. People are not ready, in my opinion, to have a change of this dimension in a short time. Every one of us has the impression that 2035 is far, but on the technological point of view, it's like to talk about tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I'm afraid that we won't have the time to adapt to the new circumstances.
So what would be your ideal proposition if I know you voted against this bill, this law? What would be your proposition? To keep the things as they are, or is there a middle ground, or what would be the more realistic scenario?
Well, every one of us is very happy with the idea to live in a less polluted world with a better quality of air. Every one of us is happy, but we think that we need to give time to time. We need to give the time to technology to be developed, and first of all, we don't need to impose new dynamics to people by a directive or by regulation.
So a more smooth transition would have been significantly better and is not showing technology down people's
For
throats.
sure, we need common sense and graduality. Graduality and common sense. Those are the two golden words.
Yeah. So then the question is, people who are watching this, and of course us, the citizens of European Union who are being affected by such a thing, this is not something that you decided yesterday. Of course, you decided on one particular day, you agreed on you took this law, but this has been in the news for the last couple of years. Is it something that citizens could have done to prevent this? Or is it something that like, oh no, this is an elite members of the parliament, we cannot do anything? It's more asking towards the future laws that you might see pop up in the media and you're like, I don't like this. What can people do to actually cast their vote, European Union?
Well, this is a very sensitive point because I had a lot of public meetings during the last weeks trying to explain to people why they won't be allowed anymore to use traditional engines cars. And the reaction, as I said before, is very scared. But the main suggestion I could give them is to make their voice heard by politicians. On my side, according my national party, according our political group in Brussels, we are very open and sensitive to the people's voice. But I can't hide that we are quite concerned. There is the European Commission that sometimes give us the impression to be blind. It's like to have a high-speed train that it's running against the wall.
Okay, but people could reach out to their politicians and say like, I'm against it, to actually influence their opinion. That's a possibility.
Yes, in my opinion, it would be interesting, for example, to organize a petition or something like that. We are not. I repeat it once again.
Yeah.
We are not against. We are not against a better planet Earth, but on the other hand, we need to give time to technology to.
No, I
be,
agree.
To be
I definitely, I'm with you on that point. That's why I'm here to actually show people that there is a middle ground. And speaking of the middle ground, I believe within this law, within this ban, Germany was a very strong supporter when it comes to internal combustion engines still that will be able to run on synthetic fuels. So as long as there is zero emission, it will still be allowed. And I know that, well, from our area, the Nürburgring, especially like Borchia, is very heavily investing into flex fuels or like synthetic fuels. Can you give us some inside information on that?
Yeah, frankly speaking, in Brussels we had the impression that Germany was more ready about this transition than France.
Okay.
I'm talking about car producers companies. Well, in general, I think that biofuels should be a quite interesting alternative for decarbonizing, for less polluting. But in this case, we need to give to technology his time, because it's very hard to run on new models of consume. It's hard to run about all the new things that we'll need to propose to European drivers.
Good. Well, I guess that's it. Yeah, I wouldn't even know what would be. We have to just embrace it and be ready for it. But as you see, it's not going to be an easy road, and especially the outcome. I think it might lead to some challenges.
Yeah. A lot of pragmatism will be required. Otherwise, the green transition will not be possible. We need to give the possibility to normal people and not only to rich people to be able to face this revolution, this green revolution.
Yeah, exactly, because we talked already briefly about the power grid and what it will do when you have a lot more electric vehicles, and you can tell people, okay, you can charge at home and you don't have to go somewhere else.
Yeah, sure.
But it also costs money. And I think with the more demand and with the current little supply of energy that we have, it's going to cause some more problems.
Yeah, one thing for sure is that it will be a no pain, no gain revolution.
Oh yeah. Well, I wanted to end on a positive note, but we just have to be realistic here. So, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot to our friends.
Yeah, and then see you at the Nürburgring. We'll enjoy the internal combustion engines a bit longer than next time.
With pleasure.
Awesome. See you then.
Thank you again.
Thank you. Speaking of which, one more thing. What car do you drive?
Wow, very big question. I'm not an owner.
No?
I asked my father or to my partner to lend me.
Me neither, actually. Then, what do actually other members of the parliament drive usually? Because quite often, I get the impression when you look at the media reports, they arrive in their V12, Mercedes or BMW, and then they vote in favor of...
You'll be astonished because my colleagues have very, very simple cars.
Okay.
And so nothing special, nothing at VIP level.
Okay, good. And electric, most importantly, or not all?
It depends, but we will talk about this topic next time.
Okay, we'll do that. Stay tuned.